Hey, it's Bill with Pierre Woodworking. Today I'm going to build a box, and I'm also going to show you how to make a quick and simple jig to do that. I chose a piece of reclaimed wood. This is a piece we took off an old building last year. It's probably around 120-year-old piece of white oak. So white oak is very brittle, especially when it's reclaimed. So maybe I didn't choose the right board to do this with, but I'm going to see how it all works out. So getting everything plain of thickness, I'm going for 3/4 of an inch thick. Doesn't matter how thick you make them, as long as when you set up your jig, that your blade is the same height as the thickness of the board. Nothing matters on thickness, nothing matters on height, nothing matters on the size of the pins and slots you're gonna make. It's just all on how you set everything up. So here I was gonna make a 4-inch tall box. Just enough room to put 4 bottles of glue in and store it so it looks a little bit better than what I had. So I'm just getting the pieces here ripped down to size, plane to size, cut to size, and my sides and ends are going to be 4 inches tall. So I'm going to go ahead and rip them to the 4 inches, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut all my pieces to the lengths that I need and get ready to go ahead and make my jig that I'm going to just mount on my fence. So once I get everything ripped down, planed down, I'm cutting the size, it's time to go on to the jig. A simple jig, you can buy these, you can get them at your local woodworking store, but I chose to just make one out of plywood. Today I chose just to do a basic 1/4 inch pins. So here I'm just taking a piece of 1/4 inch plywood, doesn't matter the width, height, or size, so I could just set my dado saw up to the same height as that board. That's how much height I've got on my blade, is the thickness of the board. Once I get that, I'm just making a little piece. Sometimes it just takes a couple shots, but I made a little piece of wood that's going to go inside the pins, and I'm going to glue that in there with some super glue, and that's going to be my guide when I start making my jig. Once I get that glued in there and set up, it's time to just go ahead and put my fence on, make sure it's square, make sure everything's right, and I'm basically ready to start cutting my sides and my ends. First one just goes right against that pin. Simple. That width there is the same width as the pins. So I can go ahead and just start with this and go all the way through the board. Now I've marked my top, so all the tops are the same. So when I go through, I know what my top is, because it may not add up to be the perfect pin on the bottom, but that doesn't matter. Once I get them all done, I use the other side as a spacer when I'm cutting my other end. And you can see here how I'm just going to take a board, the last one that I cut, and I put up against it, just like this here, and start my cut, and then everything will be perfect for the next one, and so on and so forth. It's pretty much self-explanatory once you start going, and you kind of figure it out. I'm actually going to put a bottom in this thing. So there's a couple different ways to do this. This is just a box that I'm making for my glue bottle. So I'm going to go ahead and rip a kerf in the inside of the box. And unfortunately, I'm going to go right through one of my pins. I could clean this up with a chisel and stop short. So I make a little piece of wood to slide in there. I sand it off clean, and you can't even tell. It's a whole lot quicker that way. When you do a box joint like this, you're actually adding about twice the glue surface. So just a little bit of glue. You don't have to glue every single pin. This isn't going to be getting a lot of wear and tear. I put a little bit of glue on a couple different pins here and there. And then I'll just clamp it all together, let it dry for 4 or 5 hours, and I'll come back a little bit later in the day and start sanding it. Then I'll come back and fix any imperfections, sand it down, and I ended up with the perfect box for my glue bottles. So they look awesome, especially with white oak, because the end grain is so much darker than the actual surface of the wood. So here's the box, all done, finally. It does take a little time to do this, getting everything set up perfectly. Probably took me about 2 hours from the time I started the jig, got the wood picked out, got it planed down, and there's my box. Here's my 4 bottles of glue that I usually have kicking around, and they fit right in there perfectly, and those will go to the shelf. That's all there is to it. It's not as hard as it looks, and I got my box built.